Mountains leap out of the desert floor lies the fastest 1-mile paved oval racetrack in the world. When the IndyCars perform their magic, they average about 165 miles an hour around here. For the next hour, we will see the next step down in terms of horsepower, but certainly not in terms of competition. The ARS series will be racing for 100 miles. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Phoenix International Raceway. I'm Chris McClure, and for the next hour, 100 laps, we will see the inaugural event of the 1988 HFC American Racing Series, a package of 12 races this year, and it ought to be very competitive. In fact, that's by design, because the chassis, the March chassis they use, are the same. The Buick V6 engines are supposed to be rated within 2 or 3 horsepower of each other. And the qualifying for this first event of 1988 seems to bear that out. Joining me for his expert commentary on this event is two-time IndyCar champion Bobby Rahal. And Bobby, I think when you consider the fact that CART is now the sanctioning body and the qualifying is so close, the stability of ARS is really making a step forward.
Well, I don't think there's any question. I think, first of all, just having the same sanctioning body do all the organizational work, that's a big boost to the series. It sort of gives the series more of an air of legitimacy, I think, by having CART as a sanctioning body. And as you say, with the engines being the same, the chassis being the same, it all adds up to where the series can finally, once and for all, I believe, prove itself as to whether it's a legitimate form of a proving ground where young drivers can step up to IndyCars.
ARS has raced at Phoenix before over 75 miles. This event will be 100 miles. And it's been blazing hot here in the desert over the last few days. It is again today. It's all a combination, Bobby, I think, that puts extra stress on them all.
Well, there's no question. Many of these drivers are used to races maybe 50 miles in length or 75 as in Super V. That extra 25 miles may not sound like much, but it adds up, and particularly in this heat. And not just from a personal standpoint as a driver, but keeping the balance in the car, not leaning on the tires too hard. Having a good overall, good handling car in an overall sense is very critical, and that will be the deciding factor, and that 25 miles is going to be critical in that.
Jeff Andretti will sit on the pole. He is the defending race champion here at Phoenix, but first through fifth in this field is separated in time by less than 1/10 of a second. Those 5 gentlemen are all racing veterans from different series, but many of them are new to the ovals, and that makes it tricky, and they're going to have to mind their P's and Q's.
And the first thing you find about an oval is it's different. It's different from a road racing circuit, and most of these fellows do come from the road racing ranks. So you do have some experience up front with Jeff Andretti. I think Dave Simpson's up second or third on the grid. So there's enough people with some experience. You've got a couple rookies in there, but I think these young fellows are good enough that they're going to let things sort themselves out, and they know it's a 100-mile race, and there's a lot of racing to do after the first lap.
The cars are now being put on the grid on the front straightaway, and we'll be back to look at the entire field, top to bottom, and get the green flag in just a moment. Has gone out in Phoenix. Gentlemen, start your engine, and the field is now underway in the first of 3 parade and pace laps before we get the green flag, and this first event of the 1988 campaign will be underway. And now all 18 of the cars have fired and are away. Taking a look at the field, on the pole will be the number 81 of Jeff Andretti from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, the defending champion in the Phoenix event, and second in ARS points in both 86 and 87. Outside of him will be Calvin Fish, a rookie in ARS from Chicago, who was the Eastern Formula Atlantic champion in 1987. The second row, Paul Tracy, the number 71 automobile. He's from Scarborough, Ontario, a good, talented young hot shoe, just 19 years old. And on the outside of the row, number 31, Jan Beekes. Scheduled for just 3 ovals this year unless he can get better sponsorship, but he's where he wants to be. He loves driving the ovals. Row number 3, Tommy Byrne out of Dundalk, Ireland. He's an ARS veteran, had 2 victories last year. Michael Chandler outside of the row in the number 12 car. His comeback attempt is underway after a serious crash 4 years ago at Indianapolis. 4th row, Steve Barkley from Orange, California, and Dave Simpson out of Torrance, California, who last year had a strong finish in 1987, 2 poles and a victory in the last couple of races. The 5th row, Ted Prappis from Los Angeles on the inside, and Gary Rubio from New York on the outside. Row number 6 for ARS events in 1987, George Metzos Outside of him, one of a trio of drivers who will be in this chassis this year. This time it's Wally Dallenbach Jr., part of the Colorado connection. Row number 7, Brian Angayas, his daddy, famous at the Brickyard, and Bobby Fix from Englewood, Colorado. In row number 8, Brad Murphy out of Phoenix, Arizona. He's scheduled for a full season in the Team Car International ride. And outside of him, Giovanni Fontanasi in the Agapu Racing entry, his second ARS start. The first of those was last November, that in Miami, Florida. He crashed on that event. The 9th row, Mike Snow on the inside. 2 weeks ago, he didn't even have ARS in mind for this year, but this seat became available, and this youngster, 22 years old, out of Denver, took the ride. And outside of him, the last spot on the grid, Guido Dacco, the Italian. He has one ARS event as well last year at Miami. They're in the pace lap. Next time by Bobby Rahal, we will get the green, and a lot of fellows are going to learn a lot of things new about tight racing in a little bull ring.
That's for sure. This place, I think Phoenix is one of the most difficult oval tracks certainly we run on in the Indy cars, and I can imagine that it's the same with these cars. It's 100 miles long this year, 25 miles longer than last, and I think that's going to be a critical factor in this race, as we discussed in the introduction, but we're getting ready for the start, so let's take a look.
Very tidy field as they move slowly into turn number 3. The lights have gone off on the pace car, being piloted by Johnny Rutherford, and really the field is on its own, and Jeff Andretti have them in good formation. The acceleration should begin right about here as they wait for the green flag. And I'll tell you one thing, Bobby, they're going to be very careful about improving position before the stripe. Well, Jeff Andretti gets a good jump.
Yeah, I'm surprised they would get a start. That Jeff Andretti, frankly, I think, obviously, being the pole winner, he feels he should be pacing the event, and that's true, but maybe got on the throttle a little bit too early there, and they're giving it one more time around.
They had 7 or 8 of them that got onto it just after Jeff Andretti, but he was unable to make that little ploy work, so onto the back straightaway they go for one more attempt at it. This is an oval, so that does not count in terms of the 100 laps expected in the event. Again, they line it up. The first 4 are in good shape. Now the first 6, and they're in turn number 3. Flagman Terry Walsh of the kart staff and also ARS gives them another look. Acceleration a little more even this time, Bobby Rahal, but Jeff gets the jump.
They still don't get a start. They've got to get their acts together a little bit here. It's obviously, Jeff, the sooner you can get on the throttle, particularly between turn 3 and 4, the better it is for you as the pole sitter. But for the sake of starting the event, obviously the starter wants everybody in order, and by accelerating as early as he is, that's making it difficult for those behind him to be in order. But obviously he's the pole sitter, and everybody else is a little bit responsible for it as well.
2 false starts, getting a little anxious, I would think, in the cockpits. That could affect the attitude of the first couple of laps, I would think, after they get the green.
Well, at some point you say, well, you say the heck with it. They're going to give us the green flag no matter what we do, and of course we'll see if that's the case here.
Calvin Fish, Jeff Andretti, once again they come out. This time the green falls, and making a move immediately down inside to turn 1, and Paul Tracy gets through Calvin Fish into second place, but Jeff Andretti, taking advantage of those 2 dicing behind them with each other, pulls away to about a 5 or 6 car lead.
That was a gutsy move by Paul Tracy. Obviously, Jeff's got the advantage here. He's not fighting with anybody, and he should be able to stretch his lead a little bit, but Paul Tracy really pulled off a good move on that start.
So he will be the leader of record as they come to the line. It's Jeff Andretti, then Paul Tracy, and moving down to the inside, making a move on Tracy is Tommy Byrne, but he can't get through, and now they're spreading out just a little bit up in front. Teammate Paul Tracy and Jeff Andretti, the early pace. Tracy's had some racing already this year, and we have a yellow on the track on the back straightaway. One of them is slowing down. That is Brian Angayas, who put up a cloud of dust over there, but I don't think he made any contact with anything, Bobby Rahal.
No, he didn't, and I'll tell you who's really made a start is Michael Chandler. He's 3rd now and was pressing Paul Tracy there, and Michael had come from 6th on the grid. So Michael Chandler's going very well.
Brian Angayas is the man who brought out the yellow flag. There you see it coming into 2. He was down a little bit low and looped it around, got through the dirt. There is a little bit of room to maneuver over there, Bobby, and he was able to gather it in, get it back on the track, and he's now around to the pits.
Well, the officials will take a look at the track, make sure there's not a lot of gravel or what have you on the circuit. But I would think that this will be cleaned up pretty quickly.
So we're under yellow at Phoenix, and Jeff Andretti. The track inspection for Brian Angayas' spin has been completed, and we expect next time across the stripe, Bobby Rahal, they will get a green flag, and I think we'd be very well advised to keep an eye on the number 12 machine, that of Michael Chandler, making a demon move in the early laps. We've got 4 of record. Jeff Andretti is the man in front, followed by Paul Tracy and then Chandler. And he looks like he really wants to make a run of it here at Phoenix on this sunny afternoon.
Well, the pace car certainly making sure that they're going slow on this one. Look at Chandler here now. Oh my, there we go.
Chandler makes a move down the center, and he picked up Jeff Andretti, and we have debris all over the front straightaway. A bit of a mistake, I think, there in the driving and looking for the alley up the center. And we have heavy contact on the front straightaway just at the restart, and this looks like it could be a long yellow.
I think this will definitely be a long yellow. What exactly happened there, I'm not sure. Obviously, on the restart, they got together on the front straightaway, and they hit hard.
It was a big hit. They got the front wheels tangled up and went to the right-hand side, hitting the outside retaining wall. There's Michael Andretti over to check on the condition of his brother Jeff. Jeff, who we've seen already, has climbed out of the cockpit, and there he is making his way back toward the pits, away from his demolished race car. Brother Michael very concerned. You can bet Mario isn't far away, and he'll be concerned as well. Meantime, Chandler was still in the car just a moment ago, and the Horton units that serve Hartswell are on hand right now to help him out. And I think he has at least made it out of the cockpit, and the field is being stopped on the front straightaway.
Chris, they've red flagged the race. It's going to take a while to clean this mess up and get everybody back in order.
They took a lot of suspension parts and tires and axles and short shafts and everything else off both of those machines. Mario Andretti is also out there with his son Jeff Andretti, who took a big hit along the front straightaway as they went for the restart. They came off turn number 4, 3 wide, and it was Michael Chandler trying to come down through the middle. Here you see on this shot as it begins, Chandler is on the right side, Bobby, and he gets caught in the middle.
Well, it looked like, actually, Michael was sort of pulling out to the right, and Jeff was pulling into the left, and they obviously didn't see each other, and got together. I think Michael was just a little bit ahead of Jeff.
Take another look at it from a different angle, a little bit slower, and we'll see how that situation did develop. This is Michael Chandler as he comes around. Now, as they wait for the green flag, he's in 3rd place.
Right.
Now they wind up 3 wide. That's Tracy in the center. Here comes Chandler up, cutting across Tracy. They don't touch, I don't believe.
No.
But the wheels of Jeff Andretti and Chandler get together, and that's always trouble.
Well, I think what happened there to a degree was that on the restart, being the pole sitter and leading the race, Jeff had a good restart and probably trying to protect his line a little bit coming off the corner and squeezing down on the front straight just a bit. And of course, Michael was trying to take advantage of his restart. And that's how they got together. It's unfortunate.
One more time. Chandler really used up a lot of lateral movement on the racetrack right here. Tracy ducking in behind him. He'd already made a couple of gutsy moves in the race, and they weren't even at the stripe yet when they got together. And it was a hard pop along that wall. You see the flagmen, Nick Finoro and Terry Walsh there.
And of course, the poor fellows behind, they're trying to somehow weave their way through all the bouncing wheels and body work and what have you, and you really can't see much in those situations. And many times it's luck that you make it through.
Both drivers are out of their cars, apparently all right, but they are done for the day, and we have a red flag condition at Phoenix. The The cleanup at Phoenix has been concluded, and we're about ready to go back to a green flag situation. The leader on the racetrack is Paul Tracy. He inherits that after the crash. Calvin Fish and Ted Prappis, they're the top three. 5 cars went out of the race. The direct result of Jeff Andretti and Mike Chandler getting together. Also, Jan Bikas, Tommy Byrne, and Steve Barkley. And they turn them loose once again. The green flag flies. And Paul Tracy, the young Canadian, leads the charge into turn number 1 with Calvin Fish on his heels. Also running right there is Ted Prappis. And Wally Dallenbach Jr. looked like he'd been moving up through the field, but now falling back just a little bit, Bobby Rahal.
Well, I think, you know, through that melee, some people may have moved up in the order that had been actually running behind some people, but at least they're settling down here, it looks like, and getting with the race. Paul Tracy did a great job of avoiding all that mess, and I've been impressed with this young fellow. He's raced in New Zealand and won a couple of races in Formula Atlantic, and of course raced in Canada, and I think he's got a pretty good future ahead of him.
Very, very, very quick. Tommy Byrne, one of those that was in this field until a few moments ago, raced against Paul Tracy in England in Formula 2000. He said as a concession to his youth, you know, when he gets his head together with his foot, he's going to be a heck of a race car driver. But at the age of 19, makes some mistakes. But right now, driving a nice clean line down the front straightaway and making some time on Calvin Fish, the man in second position, another veteran driver and a Formula Atlantic competitor last year and a winner of a championship. But Tracy's moving away from him.
He is. Now, of course, this is the thing. Now, is Calvin, with a little bit more experience, sort of sitting back and letting things settle down and making sure to take care of his tires, or in his Paul, because of his youth, just going as hard as he can and possibly hurting his tires. So, well, only the end of the race, I guess, will tell that. But so far, it's been a pretty impressive debut.
4th and 5th place runners right there. Number 4 is Ted Prappis and Wally Dallenbach Jr. trying to find a way around in turn 1 and 2. Wally Dallenbach Jr., another veteran, and he's seen some oval experience. He's been a 2-time Trans Am champion and comes from a great racing family. Will drive this event and then no more until later in the year, Bob.
Well, it's so hard to pass, particularly on a 1-mile oval, because so much of it, and even with these cars, there's, you know, you've got inertia going for you, and if you just have to get out of the throttle just a little bit, it can take you 2 or 3 laps just to get back up to where you were, and I think Wally's fighting that a little bit right now. He gets close under braking and may have to slow down a little bit more than he would expect to because of the traffic, and then it takes him another lap or 2 to get a good shot at the fellow in front of him.
Wasn't able to close on Prappis through turn number 3. Now they're working off 4. We'll see how the straightaway holds up. Prappis able to pull away maybe a car length and a half or 2 more, and then into turn number 1. This is where Dallenbach has closed it down a little bit the last couple of laps, but not so this time. Prappis a little smoother through and holds his ground against Wally Dallenbach Jr. That's a battle for 4th position in this race. Working lap number 13 right now, we are, as the battle for 4th continues on the back stretch. 13 goes into the books for the leader, Paul Tracy. 2nd place belongs to Calvin Fish. And then Dave Simpson is in 3rd spot. Ted Prappis and Wally Dallenbach are the 4th and 5th place runners.
Just in looking at both Paul Tracy's car and Calvin Fish's, they're definitely using less road. Particularly in turns 1 and 2, they're able to take a higher line through there, which means their cars are handling quite well. Obviously, that's why they're spreading their lead from the 3rd place car. But by looking at that, I'd say that these two fellows have got their cars handling consistently well and will be strong for the duration of the race.
About 20 car lengths, 0.8 of a second on the racetrack is what separates those front 2. Then it's another 4 full seconds back to 3rd place, Dave Simpson. So Tracy and Fish have really broken off the battle. They're out there running alone by almost 2 full turns now over 3rd spot.
I think Calvin is catching Paul just a little bit, maybe a 1/10 of a second per lap or what have you, but it looks to me like he is catching him.
Meantime, Wally Dallenbach losing a little ground in the back, but there's Calvin Fish running in the 2nd spot. Last pass through, 0.92 seconds behind the leader, Paul Tracy. A little bit further back in the field, car number 10, that of George Metzos, and the 20 car, Bobby Fix, out of Englewood, California. They are battling for 6th and 7th at the moment, still on the lead lap, but a good deal back, about half a racetrack back right now. Bobby Fix just got that ride assigned this week and had a short period of time, no testing, and he had to get used to the car very quickly. Fortunately, 3 days ago, they had an open test session for all of these people at this racetrack, and I think even though we've had a little carnage in the early going, Bobby Rahal, that certainly had to help them all.
To say the least. Yeah, I think it did. you know, this track is so difficult, and the condition of the circuit and the way the car handles and reacts to the circuit can change dramatically from day to day, and so therefore you may not have the ideal setup from one day to the next, but having that experience and getting a feel for it is very important.
Battle continues for 6th and 7th position. That's Metzos and Fix up front. It has been closing down, as you suggested, in the last couple of laps, Bobby Rahal. The lead for Paul Tracy just a moment ago down to .70. Now it's back up to .77. So they're kind of dicing with each other and continuing to pull further and further away from the field. There are the front two runners moving into turns 3 and 4 right now at Phoenix International Raceway, about to put their 19th lap of competition of 100, a scheduled 100, in the book. And there it is, that time through .76. So he gained 100 that time around, and that's just the flick of an eye. Good battle, though.
It is good, and I think now they're starting to get into traffic, and that will be the key to this race. How they get through traffic, if they can pass high or low on the track, whoever can do that is going to be able to take the lead and run away with it.
Into the pits, Bobby Fix from Englewood, Colorado. He was in that fight just a moment ago with George Metzos, was running in the 7th spot, but now they have gone inside the cockpit. Looks like he might be unstrapping, working on the left front tire, so we'll keep an eye on that, see if they can get back into competition. Fix is staying in the car. Battle for first in turn number 3. Now they're beginning to overtake some back markers as Brian Angayas is right in front of Tracy as they cross the stripe, putting lap number 21 on the board. Tracy gets through him cleanly, and now it's up to Calvin Fish. Not as busy as it might have been had we not lost 5, perhaps now 6 cars out of a field of 18, but still, you got to keep your eyes open and use your mirrors out around here.
Well, it's unfortunate, but these two fellows were running up front anyway, so it's not like we've lost the quality of the field. Both Calvin Fish and Paul Tracy were right in the thick of it prior to the accident, but Calvin did lose a lot of time there in turns 3 and 4 in lapping Brian Angayas, and he's going to have to work hard to catch up. But does that mean his car's not working in traffic? If it does, he's in for a long day.
He lost almost 0.7 of a second in that shuffle because it went from a 0.7 lead for Tracy to 1.46 seconds. So certainly that exchange goes strongly in favor of Paul Tracy as lap number 23 goes on the board. The standings, Paul Tracy, Calvin Fish, and Dave Simpson. And Wally Dallenbach Jr. has moved into the 4th spot, and backing off considerably is Ted Prappis, who was running there at the 4th position until just a few moments ago, but he's experiencing difficulty. He's fallen way off the pace. We're at Phoenix, and the leader right now is Paul Tracy. Back at Phoenix International Raceway, Chris McClure along with Bobby Rahal. This is the initial event of the 1988 season, the HFC ARS Series, and Paul Tracy, Canada, is the leader with Calvin Fish running in the 2nd spot. And right now we have a battle among back markers, and Tracy, as he's moving through rather briskly, I think, Bobby Rahal, through the back markers as he's lapping several cars in just the first quarter of the race.
He's doing a very good job for his first oval race, and as I say, it is different from road racing. He's able to pass high on the road, and that's a big key to this racetrack. As you can see, he's opened up quite a distance already over Calvin, who I think is having a bit more difficulty getting through traffic.
Into turn number 3, Tracy just stormed by the 5 car, that of Guido Dacco out of Italy, off turn number 2 and through the back straightaway, and he really has put some space back to 2nd place now. It's up to 1.60 seconds as the lead for Tracy, and now he's got some clear sailing for almost a quarter of the racetrack, while Fish is still back there with all that turbulence, Bobby. That's a big advantage for the moment.
Well, it is, because the fellow in front of Calvin, he's in his own race. He's trying to catch the fellow in front of him, and of course all his attention may be directed towards that, and if anything that becomes an obstacle to Calvin, and Calvin's got to be a bit aggressive here, I think. He's got to sort of stick his nose in there and make the pass.
You see the flagman leaning over the number 3 car, Brad Murphy, giving Calvin Fish a little assist there, at least asking Murphy to use his mirrors and be aware of the traffic, and immediately Fish gets through. He still has to deal with Dacco before he can get back up to Tracy, and now it's a quarter of the racetrack almost in terms of the lead for Paul Tracy. He is just smooth as silk and pulling away.
And in that situation, Chris, Dave Simpson's catching Calvin Fish. And again, the traffic is that's being the factor now. Whether Dave Simpson is as fast as Calvin once they're out on their own, that remains to be seen. But Calvin's got to be a bit more aggressive, I think, here in traffic to make an effect.
3.38 first to second, and it's just another 1.4 seconds back to Simpson. Next pass through will make the adjustment with the timing and scoring people and see if they have closed it down in the battle for second place, which is now shaping up with Dave Simpson closing up, and it has indeed closed down to just 1 second between the two. Fish has gotten through the number 5 car, that of Daca, and Simpson is coming up right behind Daca there, so that, with the traffic between them, is a great battle shaping up for second place. Fish moves off turn number 4 and swings it up high. There's Tracy, the blue car in the foreground. Here's Fish, then Daca, and Simpson behind him. Simpson will try and take him down low, takes a peek, and pulls back in line. Easy to make a mistake right there, Bobby, because I think you can get drawn into a tough spot.
No question. It gets narrow going into that corner. I think there Dave was just sort of pulling out and trying to make sure that Daco could see him in his mirrors, because sometimes it is difficult with the wings to see directly behind you, and by pulling out a little bit, it gives you you'd like to think that the guy can see you easier.
Well, once he made sure that Daco knew he was there, he just blew by him on the back straightaway. So now it's clear racetrack between those two. The lead for Fish in second place over third place Simpson did extend a little bit as Simpson diced back there with Daca, but now we'll see with open racetrack for both of them if he can close it back down and who truly is stronger.
That's right. And now I think Paul Tracy has a great opportunity here to dictate the race. He can, he's getting through traffic easily. When you get that 5-6 second lead or what have you, you can begin to dictate the pace of it. And he's got that opportunity now where he'll get the brakes in traffic because people are looking for him. Calvin won't be getting the brakes because people won't be looking for him necessarily unless Paul's already gone through them. So a big chance for him here to stretch it out.
There's Tracy as he comes off turn number 4. This time across the stripe will be lap number 35. It goes. We have 7 cars still in the lead lap, and as we followed Tracy there just a moment ago, we saw in turn 1 Michael Snow in the bronze-colored car went up high, so Tracy was able to just tuck down on the white line and go through. It looks like he can have any lane he wants on the racetrack.
Well, I think he can to a degree. I noticed in turns 3 and 4 that he's relegated somewhat to a single line through the corner, and I think some of that might be a little bit of inexperience on his part. But there's no question he is, I think, not only aggressive, and he's using that to his advantage. He's sticking his nose in there, and the guy that he's lapping can see him, and that's making things possible for him.
And back to our earlier issue of discussion, there's Calvin Fish moving into the back straightaway. He has been able to extend his lead over third place Dave Simpson since they both got in the clear of traffic. And we have
a spin.
A spin and contact in turn number 4. It is the 9 car, that of Gary Rubio, making contact with the outside of the turn as he got it looped around and its left front damage. He drifts down to the pit wall on the inside. And that is our second crash of this event. We raced under the green for about 32 laps. And now Gary Rubio is the next moment of attrition for this event. Already we had lost 5 cars. Jeff Andretti and Chandler, Beekes, Byrne, and Barkley. That was early on, and now it is the number 9 machine of Gary Rubio. You see it just came around on him off the turn and pretty hard hit, almost in backward, but took kind of a glancing blow along the side of the car. Bobby, and I suppose, given a choice, that's the one you want.
Yeah, if you're going to hit the wall, that's a good way of hitting it. But it just got away from it, looks like. It's slippery out there. Again, if the thing with an oval is if it gets sideways on you just a little bit, you've got to respect that. In road racing, if it gets sideways a little bit, if the back end comes out, you're used to catching it. You're used to trying to catch it. And on oval, you really can't do that. And that might have happened here.
Take another look at it, Bobby. And he looked okay right there, at least from that distant angle, and all of a sudden it's around on him. It can happen.
It looked to me like he had been trying to get by somebody, or he was very close to somebody. Perhaps the turbulence caught him a little bit unawares. Fortunately for him, he did get in backwards, and in any kind of car, especially a Formula car like these, when you hit the wall, as I said, that's about the best way of doing it. But I think it just got away from him a little bit. The road's a little bit uneven down there, and maybe all those things contrived to have him spin.
So once again, we're under yellow at Phoenix. Paul Tracy of Canada is the the leader, the first ARS event of 1988. All of the ARS competitors race with identically prepared power plants, the Buick V6. It's a normally aspirated engine with electronic fuel injection. George Montgomery, an employee of ARS, is the man who supervises the preparation of this race engine, and he delivers them to the competitors with a horsepower rating that has been dynamometer tested to within 2 or 3 horsepower of each other. The engines are sealed. The competitors cannot work on the inside of the engine. They race with what they get. Track cleanup has been concluded at Phoenix International Raceway from the Gary Rubio contact in turn number 4, and we're about to get a restart next time by. A couple of interesting situations, Bobby Rahal. There you see Paul Tracy, the leader, in that lead serial right there. A key man at the moment is Michael Snow. He's a back marker, but he's sandwiched among the leaders.
Well, how he affects Calvin Fish is going to determine whether Calvin's got a shot at Paul Tracy on the restart or not, and we're about to find out.
John Rutherford makes the hard left-hand turn on the pit road, and the acceleration is underway. A good jump for Tracy as he hits the line. The green flies, and Calvin Fish gets up high, and into turn number 1, he has disposed of Michael Snow. Now Simpson has to do it to resume the battle for second place, and off turn number 2, he's unable to do so. Paul Tracy got a good drag off turn 4, and a good jump, it looked like.
Well, unfortunately for Paul, he's worked hard to get a big lead, and of course that yellow wipes out your lead. But I think he does have the best car, and I think he's driving the best race so far, and has been able to pull out whenever he's needed to. This is the moment of truth for Calvin. Either he's got to do it now, or he's going to be a second-place finisher, I believe, unless something happens to Paul, because he's gotten a new breath of life. This is a second chance for him after a restart, and what he does now is going to determine the rest of his race.
Really a brand new race, and the way you treat them, Bobby Rahal, an oval event is a series of races.
Well, it's true. It depends. You know, many times you'll run real hard and then a yellow comes out. It seems almost as if you run from yellow to yellow and therefore have like 5 or 6 races within one.
Dave Simpson, the black number 7 machine, turning into turn number 1. He is dicing a little bit there with Guido Dacco. He's gotten through him, but he still has to move up and pass Michael Snow to get into the lead serial once again, and not having much luck with that. In fact, Snow is pulling away from them. Simpson has been backing off considerably. So very much like the early laps of the race, Bobby, we have the front 2 breaking it off and getting out on their own.
Well, Mike Snow did a good job on that restart. He got off. He had a good start, but he moved down. He knew he was being lapped, and he moved down and was not going to mess up the race for Calvin. And sometimes he wished more people did that, frankly.
Actually, we have a battle between Simpson and Wally Dallenbach Jr. shaping up. Dallenbach in the 98 car has Dacco between he and Simpson for 3rd position, but he's been closing that down, and Simpson looks like he's a little bit off the pace. Things can happen when you're running slower under yellow. Occasionally, the car just doesn't come back properly.
That's right. Well, the tires cool down. You might get buildup. You know, as the tires cool down after running hard, and you get on a yellow flag period, and it'll actually pick up rubber lane on the ground. That creates an imbalance in the car. It might create an understeer or an oversteer situation. So he might be suffering some of that. Who knows? But as the race progresses, they are catching Mike Snow, so that group is going quicker. And
Dallenbach in turn 1 a half lap ago did get through Dacco, and now he's moving up right on the rear wing of Simpson. He may take a look here in turn number 1 and try and set him up for a pass in the next lap or 2. He closes it right down in turn number 2, just a car length and a half or so. So Wally Dallenbach making another bid to gain a position at the expense of Dave Simpson right now. Simpson closed out the 1987 campaign in ARS with a win and a couple of pole positions. Really felt good and confident coming into 1988 and showing that he is, again, an improved driver, I think, Bobby. But now, into turn number 1, Dallenbach takes a peek, maybe letting him know for sure that he was there, as you suggested in another instance earlier, Bobby. But he's going to make a move before too long.
Well, I'll tell you, Wally's got, he may be young, but he's got a ton of experience, and he's done nothing but impress in all kinds of categories. In IMSA with the GTO Camaro, and I saw him have a couple of races that were just phenomenal, and he's having a run at Simpson right now.
On the front straightaway, just a half a car length at the stripe, and the lane belongs to Dallenbach, and he goes through. Courageous little move as it tightens down in turn number 1, but he takes it in a little bit deeper and gets that 3rd position, and now it's but is a factor in the battle for position up front right now. Off turn number 4 they come. Meantime, the leader on the back straightaway, coming off turn number 2, is Paul Tracy. Good and smooth. His lead over Calvin Fish has diminished in the last couple of laps to 0.85, so that's closing down as well. On the back straightaway, there's Wally Dallenbach, the right hand of the screen. The gold car on the left, that is Snow. And into turn number 3, it closes down considerably. Off turn 4, Wally Dallenbach, very smooth at the moment, trying to pick up the back markers so he can make a move toward Calvin Fish up the track. But they've got a half a lap to go. Anyone that gets through now, Bobby, it's getting away.
Of course, selfishly, Wally's hoping for another yellow, not at the expense of somebody being hurt, certainly, but another yellow would give him it's a new chance for him, and he's obviously going well. Now, how he'd compare to Calvin or to Paul, I'm not sure. But certainly, Calvin's giving Paul a run for his money right now. And how much better he is, we'll see.
We'll have more action from Phoenix International Raceway in just one moment. Phoenix International Raceway still in green flag condition for the first event of the 1988 HFC ARS campaign. And we're better than halfway through the event, coming up on lap number 57 of record. Paul Tracy's lead down to 0.65 over Calvin Fish, so it's just slowly, lap by lap, diminishing. He's not taking it in big chunks, but little tiny pieces.
Well, here again, are Calvin's tired? Did he take care of his tires better than Paul did early on in the event? Obviously, the track is changing. As the race goes on, more oil gets put down, more rubber. The handling characteristics are going to change. Perhaps Calvin's got the best handling situation right now. Certainly, by the looks of it, he does.
Brian Angais right in front of Tracy on the backside, and on the front it's Wally Dallenbach Jr., then Michael Snow, and then Dave Simpson trying to get through Snow. Simpson now running in the 4th position since that restart a few laps ago. He has dropped 1 spot on the racetrack. On the front straightaway, I think the lead has gone back up considerably from 0.8 of a second to 1.6. So something drastic happened to Calvin Fish that last trip round.
Once again, traffic, and you hate to keep talking about traffic. It sounds repetitive, but at this place particularly, that is the key.
Simpson trying to work on Snow in turn number 1. No room there. Dallenbach was able to get under Snow on the low groove in that turn, but there's been no room. 3 consecutive laps for Simpson to try a similar move. He's running in 4th position. And there's Wally Dallenbach in the 3rd spot right now, the veteran. They have listed 3 drivers for that car for the 1988 season. Wally Jr., Paul Dallenbach, the younger brother, and Robin Dallenbach. And
a family affair.
A family affair. They want everybody to get seat time with some horsepower in the single-seaters. The object, of course, particularly in Wally Jr.'s case, is Simpson finally does clear Snow. That's in turn number 3, so he makes that move and can look up the track a little cleaner and clearer at Wally Dallenbach, who's put a full straightaway between them while he had to fight his way through Michael Snow. But back to the Dallenbach thing. After this race, Wally will be back with IMSA for several events, so Paul will take over the seat, and then midsummer they will start making some decisions on who drives. You know, if things go very, very well and points are at issue, some of the bonus money this series offers, there could be some interesting family discussions on
who gets to drive
Wednesday evenings.
Well, I think the only thing that would make it complete is for Wally Sr. to get in there and see how he'd do.
I think sometimes he'd like to go back once in a while and just get at it. Meantime, Paul Tracy, the race leader, dealing with traffic on the front straightaway. George Metzos is the first issue, and then the number 6 car will be the next man he has to clear. That's Giovanni Fontanesi.
Well, they have a spin.
They have a spin.
They have a spin.
That is Metzos spinning it in turn number 2 as he got the left wheel down inside the line. I don't know if he got in the dirt.
Well, he did a good job saving that. He instead of trying to correct, he turned with the spin, didn't touch a thing. Of course, I'm sure it gave Calvin Fish a bit of a startle, but there they just he was trying to lap number 6, and they just got too close together, and he got pinched off into the bottom of the track, and that was that.
Metzos has elected to stay out, so he's perhaps going to continue with the same set of tires. Take a look at it. He was right next to Fontanesi and just lost it. But as you say, Bobby, he gathered it in, got it pointed again the right way, no contact. downshifted, found his revs, and off he went.
Well, Paul Tracy was right behind him, and fortunately he was so close behind him that it wasn't difficult. He didn't have to guess where the other fellow was going to end up. He was already past him by that point, but certainly he was all the way underneath the yellow line with his left side tires.
Take another look at it. Tracy, the third car in the picture, coming up on the two back markers, looking for a way around and really being patient at that point. I don't think he had a move in mind, Bobby, and it's a good thing. He just slides up maybe a half lane, clears the traffic without any difficulty. I tell you, Tracy has shown us twice good reaction time in this event.
He seems to be able to see trouble before it happens and evade it when it does. And with any race car driver, if you can do that, not only are you going to be around a long time to race, but you're going to be very successful at it.
64 laps are in the book. Paul Tracy is the leader. We'll be back to Phoenix in just a moment. The track inspection from the Metza Spin has been concluded, and we're about to go green once again at Phoenix International Raceway. We have 64 laps of a scheduled 100 in the book, but the indications are now, Bobby, that they may shorten this event because of the difficulties and time delays we had in the early part of the race. Meantime, the lights go off in the pace car. John Rutherford clears the lane, and Paul Tracy charges the line, and Calvin Fish is right there again. Race number 4 within the race, and it's a new one altogether into turn number 1.
That's right. Now we've got Simpson trying to go on the inside of Wally, which he was not successfully able to do. But as far as Paul and Calvin show, it continues. And Paul, this will be, again, once again, you say this is a critical moment. And how many of these races within a race are we going to have? Depends on how long they allow the race to continue. But Paul still continues to show me that he's got the equipment and the driving capabilities to make this a win for him.
There's the man who spun just a moment ago, Metzos. He did not come into the pits for new tires, even though he looped it all the way around. And clearing him was Wally Dallenbach Jr., who had worked his way up to 3rd position, but is the man that really got lost in the short yellow in terms of the shuffle of cars and where they came out behind the pace car.
Well, he did. He had about 3 lap cars in between them, and he was not able to get a good restart. Now he has caught back up to Dave Simpson, but he got hurt, definitely.
3rd place to Dallenbach. He's running just behind Brad Murphy there into turn number 1. And then 4th place goes to Dave Simpson on the back straightaway. Tracy has extended his lead in terms of pavement back to Calvin Fish just a little bit. But as they go into turn number 3, it looked like Tracy got out of it, maybe breathed it just a little bit, and Fish took it in. I don't think he lifted right there, Bobby, because you can discernibly see it close down.
Well, the gap's staying about the same. Now, these fellows are obviously the best. Whoever's informed best as to when the end of this race is going to be is going to know what to do and how to react, how to drive their race right now. Certainly, we're sort of in the dark about the length of this race. Hopefully the crews aren't, because it could have a real factor.
Into turn number 3, Dallenbach finally does get through Brad Murphy, and it is open racetrack to 2nd place, but it's a full straightaway up the track to Calvin Fish for Wally Dallenbach Jr. As those 2 men are moving off turn number 2, Dallenbach swings into turn number 1 and through there very smoothly. It's a timed race, I think, and we're about 7 or 8 minutes away from an anticipated checkered flag. That is the initial word we get from race control, and Wally Dallenbach Sr., who is overseeing all of the action. On the front straightaway, twitch right there from the 98 machine of Dallenbach. They have struggled to chase this car all week during the open test and the practices, and I very honestly think that Wally Dallenbach Jr. is better than the car, at least at this point.
Well, it's difficult to get into a strange car and in one day go quickly with it and be a factor in a race where people have been driving these cars for a year or so. He's done a great job considering.
Into turn number 1, the battle for first still does exist. It is not that far separated. 0.79 at the line last time through. We're working lap number 72 of a scheduled 100 should it go that far. We expect it only to go for 6 more laps to lap number 77, I guess that would be, Bobby. We'll just keep an eye on the flagmen, and when they wave the white, we'll know we're in the last lap. But it's still a good battle up there.
It is. Paul's heart just went up, and Calvin's maybe went down a little bit, because that distance, no matter how little it may be, is awfully tough to make up in 5 laps. Really, as long as Paul does not make a mistake, I think that's going to be the way it ends up. but stranger things have happened.
You start talking to yourself at this point. You've been out front in a more critical race than this with just one lap to go. And do you wonder, do you think about it, or do you just try and stay in the flow?
Well, especially when somebody's that close to you, you just buckle down. You sit there and you just really concentrate on driving each lap as best as you can, and you forget about how many laps to go there are to go. And I would hope Paul's doing that now. I think he is. You know, Calvin's not giving up, and this race is far from over, but certainly it's Paul's race to win.
Just over 3 laps to go, and onto the front straightaway they come. We'll see what the clock says. There is Tracy, and there is Fish, and the clock says .55 into turn number 1 very smoothly. About 100 feet of pavement between those two. And since that early crash that took 5 cars out of the running, this really has been a terrific race up front between these two, and it could sustain all season long because they're both planning extensive campaigns in ARS this year.
I don't think there's any question. As I said earlier, this is the cream of the field that's running 1-2 right now. Calvin qualified second, Paul third. So even though it's unfortunate that we did lose those 5 cars, these cars do represent the quality of ARS.
Terry Walsh, the flag man, now has the white flag in hand. It should be a lap and a half to go, and in turn number 3, it's down to about 50 feet. Fish has been able to close it, at least to the eyeball, in that area, but by the time they get back to the front straightaway, the gap is generally the same. But this time it's down a couple of tenths again to .33. Tracy just holding on, I think, and holding him on. And the flag was not waved that trip through.
Well, Paul's got to be careful here. He can't be looking in his mirror. He's just got to look straight ahead, ignore Calvin, drive as hard as he can these last 2 laps. So Calvin's catching him. And the worst thing Paul can do is look in his mirror. If he's driving with his mirrors, Calvin will catch him.
The white flag is displayed. That passed through, so we are in the final lap of the event. And it looks as though Paul Tracy, the race leader, by about 100 feet over Calvin Fish, may catch up with Brian on guys before they get back around. Well, now it doesn't look quite so likely. They're in turn number 3, less than half lap to go, and Paul Tracy, the 19-year-old Canadian, shall have claimed his first ARS victory in his first oval race. And there it is, the checkered flag for the youngster Calvin Fish in second position. Third and fourth is a battle in turn number 4. Wally Dallenbach Jr. is third, and Dave Simpson, a good ride for him, comes across in the 4th spot. Good race.
A very good race, I thought. You know, Paul Tracy, for his first event, this fellow just continues to impress. He's won in Formula Atlantic, he's won in Can-Am, and the old Can-Am that they've run in Canada the last year or two. He's run this Camaro series in Canada and done well in that. A lot of good things for this fellow for the future. And of course, Calvin did a good job as well. It's just unfortunate we did lose Jeff Andretti and Mike Chandler and all those fellows, Tommy Byrne, because they're very tough competitors as well.